Is your child really struggling to read? Do you think they might have dyslexia? Or do you know that your child has dyslexia and are you looking for some strategies to help them be successful with reading and with learning? In this video, I want to share my thoughts. Please hit like on the video and subscribe to the channel so that you get notified whenever a new video is released. So before I start this video, I want to say that I am not a formally trained expert in dyslexia, and my kids do not have dyslexia. But as a classroom teacher, before I had my kids, I did have experience working with kids with dyslexia, and I have done some research about this topic on my own. And so I want to share just some encouragement from the perspective of a former teacher of kids with dyslexia. And hopefully that will be helpful to you in your work with your child. So first of all, I think it's really important whenever we have a child who might have dyslexia or who does have dyslexia, that we are not comparing that child with other kids. And this is true really for all homeschool families. And it's one of the biggest benefits of homeschooling. We don't have to compare our kids with other kids. Our kids won't be in a classroom with other kids the same age and having to compare their skills against those kids every day. And that can be a real blessing for kids that are struggling with dyslexia or other learning challenges. So it's important as adults that we also don't compare those kids with others. Every child has their own strengths and their own weaknesses, and kids with dyslexia are no different. They also have their own strengths and their own weaknesses. And it's important that we see both their strengths and their weaknesses, and that we don't get overwhelmed by a diagnosis to the point where we can't see our child's unique strengths. So it's really important to view your child as an individual, not to compare them with others, and not to get frustrated if their progress is a little bit slower. That doesn't mean that they aren't learning and growing at their own pace. The second thing that can be really helpful whenever you have a child that's having learning challenges is to separate their learning from those challenges as much as possible. So, for example, with dyslexia, you want to try to separate reading from learning as much as possible. This is really tricky because reading is an important foundational skill for kids that are learning, but it is definitely possible. So, as much as possible in subjects other than reading, you want to help your kids to be able to learn in a method that doesn't require them to read. So maybe you might read their textbook out loud to them, or maybe you might choose a curriculum that includes videos that your child can watch and they can get the information this way. Or maybe you might take advantage of using audiobooks and allow your child to read their curriculum using an audiobook version. So there are lots of options out there. There's lots of technology that can really help with this. And as much as possible, you want to make sure that your child does not have to read to learn in any subject. That way they can continue to learn and explore in science and in math and in all of the other subjects as much as possible without being hindered by the dyslexia challenges that they're having. So that's the second tip. From there, you want to make sure that your child has the tools that they need in order to be successful with reading as much as possible. So two things to look into. There are more, but two things to look into are, first of all, colored filters or colored paper. This is a little bit controversial, but there are some families that have had a lot of success printing things on colored paper or giving kids a colored overlay or a colored filter to look through when they are reading. This works really well for some kids and not at all for others, and different colors will work for different people. But it's something that's worth trying if it's something that can help your child find a little bit more success in reading. So you can definitely research the colored filters on your own and see if it seems like something that might be worth trying with your child. But for some kids, this has been really successful. And then the other thing that you want to make sure is that your child isn't having any kind of vision problems that are contributing to their dyslexia in any way. So it's a really good idea to get your child screened by an optometrist just to make sure that there's not any kind of vision problems that are getting missed. And sometimes helping kids by getting glasses can be a really big step in improving their reading. So if your child is struggling, I would definitely recommend reaching out and just getting an evaluation done to make sure that there aren't any issues there that you aren't aware of. And then finally, another thing that really helps kids with dyslexia is to include as many multisensory activities as possible when they're learning how to read. So you might get a set of movable letters or magnetic letters, for example, and have your child actually hold the letter and feel its shape as they're reading it. And that can be really helpful to help them be able to read the letters without having the dyslexia kick in. And then other multisensory activities like writing letters in a tray of sand or writing on shaving cream, those kinds of things can really help with dyslexia and just helping kids to be able to be successful with reading. So hopefully this was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel. And please share in the comments, what are your thoughts about teaching a child with dyslexia how to read?